Ray, do you remember reading about pirate stories and buried treasure when you were a kid?
Sure. Who hasn't read the Robert Louis Stevenson classic Treasure Island and dreamed of finding Long John Silver's buried gold?
Well, I remember being a kid in Connecticut and drawing a treasure map, and then following my own map and digging in the ground in the hopes of discovering something.
Did you ever find anything?
No, just my own dripping sweat. But I did pass away a few hours dreaming of what I'd do if I found something. You know, the fame, the fortune. Well, it turns out there may be buried pirate treasure in Connecticut. I was just digging in the wrong spot. Hi, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger, and welcome to episode 37 of the New England Legends podcast. If you give us about 10 minutes, we'll give you something strange to talk about today.
And if you're listening to this on your smartphone, be sure to subscribe for free so you don't miss a single week of stories. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you to everyone who downloaded my new audiobook, Who's Haunting the White House, from audible.com. I appreciate it.
Okay, matey. I'm ready to grab my shovel and pickaxe and find some buried treasure this week. Where are we heading?
We're heading down to the coastal town of Milford, Connecticut, to Silver Sand State Park. We're looking for Charles Island, a place they say is cursed 3 times.
3 times? Okay, I see a small island out there, maybe, 200 yards off the shore. It's just a small hump of land with plenty of trees growing on it. How are we going to get out there? We don't even have a boat, Jeff.
We wait.
Wait? For what?
We wait for the first supernatural element of Charles Island to reveal itself. The road that magically appears.
Well, I'll be damned.
Can you see it?
It looks like low tide reveals a sandbar road out to the island.
Boom, like magic. Shall we?
We shall. Though, I guess if it's cursed 3 times over, we should tread carefully. What are the curses, Jeff?
I'm glad you asked.
Curse number 1.
There's been human activity on this 14-acre island for centuries. Long before European settlers came to the area, the island was known as Paugusset. It was a summer residence of a local Paugusset sachem named Ansantawae, who no doubt enjoyed the island for the same reasons we do. Now, the Paugusset found an abundance of food and resources in Long Island Sound. But then
the European settlers show up in 1630. They also fell in love with Paugusset Island, so they made an offer to sachem Ansantawae. In 1639, the Europeans traded 6 coats, 10 blankets, 1 kettle, 12 hatchets, 12 hoes, 2 dozen knives, and a dozen mirrors for the land. While those were much-needed supplies for the Paugusset, the trade didn't sit right with Ansantawae, but then something else happened.
Some will tell you Ansantawae's daughter was kidnapped by the Europeans, so before leaving Paugusset, he places a curse on this island, that the Europeans will never prosper here.
These early white settlers renamed these 14 acres Milford Island, which makes sense considering this is Milford, Connecticut.
Then a man named Charles Deal purchases the island in 1657 and names it after the man he admires the most.
Himself.
Now called Charles Island, Deal tries to grow tobacco, but fails. He's forced to abandon the farm.
Curse number 2.
All right, we're going to move ahead 60 years to get to the next story. This is one of my favorite subjects, pirates. And this island has a connection to one of the most famous pirates of all time, Captain Kidd.
Yar, matey. Captain William Kidd started his career as a privateer, hired by European royalty to attack foreign ships. In exchange for funding these expeditions, Kidd shared his plunder 3 ways. 1 share to his crew, 1 share to his backers in Europe, and 1 share for himself.
Now, Jeff, I've always wondered what the difference is between a privateer and a pirate.
Ooh, I can answer that. So a privateer has the blessing and backing of a government to plunder foreign ships and dominate the seas. The second the privateer decides they'd rather not discriminate as to which ships they raid, and when handing over 1/3 of the plunder no longer sounds like a good idea,
they become a pirate. I get it now. So Captain Kidd makes a name for himself plundering the seas on the Indian Ocean, the Caribbean, and up the Atlantic coast of North America. The year is 1699, and Captain Kidd knows the heat is on. He's a wanted man in almost every port, so it's a matter of time before he's captured. Kidd is en route to Boston, where he believes he can find safe harbor. But he's wrong. And he must have had an idea that he was wrong because, along the way, he's making stops to bury his loot. We know he buried some of his treasure on Gardner Island, just off the coast of Long Island, but then some say he made his way to Charles Island to bury more. The idea being if he buried the loot in enough places, no one is likely to find all of it should things go wrong for your ship or crew.
The legend goes Captain Kidd hid some of his treasure under a large rock here on Charles Island, so he or his crew could return for it later. He cursed anyone who came looking for his gold.
After making his way up to Boston, Kidd was arrested. He was returned to England and tried for piracy. On the witness stand, he claimed that yes, he buried treasure on Gardner Island, but that was only some of it. If he were given a ship, he could retrieve the rest and give it to the British Crown. The courts didn't buy it or care, and he was executed May 23, 1701. And now some claim Captain Kidd's ghost haunts Charles Island, protecting the last of his buried treasure.
So we have a Native American curse working on this island, and now Captain Kidd's pirate curse and ghost.
And that brings us to...
Curse number 3.
This curse begins in 1525 in modern-day Mexico. Spanish conquistador Cortez demanded to know where Emperor Guatemozin hid the Aztec treasure. But the emperor died with his secret intact, and a curse was placed on the treasure should it ever leave Aztec land.
Fast forward to 1721. There's a group of 5 sailors from Connecticut who find the lost treasure in a Mexican cave. So they liberate all they can carry and sneak it home. But various disasters befall the men when they get back to Connecticut, killing them off one by one until only one man remains. The last man standing decides he wants no part in this cursed treasure, so he takes it out to Charles Island and buries it. Somehow, this transfers the curse from the treasure to the island.
We should add that historically speaking, this story is the thinnest. The Native Americans were definitely here. Captain Kidd sailed these waters and did show up in Milford, so it's plausible there's treasure here. But this story doesn't have as much history behind it. Still, it's added to the canon of Charles Island.
All right, so we have a Native American curse, Captain Kidd's pirate curse, and now cursed Aztec treasure, all at work on Charles Island. The next obvious question is, did these curses have any effect?
Well, we already mentioned Charles Deal's failed tobacco farm.
Okay, if you want to chalk that up as a curse, that's one.
In 1855, a summer resort called the Charles Island House opens. It's a mansion where people can stay for a few days or for the summer. 4 years later, the barn near the building burns in a mysterious fire.
All right, I guess we can give that one up to the curse.
In 1867, P.T. Barnum and his ailing wife summered in the Charles Island House.
Oh, I just watched The Greatest Showman. We can't put a curse on that one.
Yeah, fair enough. The Charles Island House eventually changed ownership and was renamed the Ansantawae House.
Oh man, renaming the place after the guy who put the original curse on the island?
That's what happened, and within 10 years they go out of business. Then a fish fertilizer factory moves in, but they don't last long considering no one in Milford wants it there because of potential water pollution, so that company leaves.
Okay, but curse?
Then a religious retreat from New Haven sets up on the island. It's a group of Dominican priests, but during the construction, one of the workers' boats capsizes, drowning 6 people.
All right, I'll give that one to the curse.
I found stories of other drownings as well. In 1972, a Milford boy drowned here after his boat was stranded out on the island. Another capsized boat caused the death of 4 others.
All right, that's truly sad. But is it because of the curse or because this is a popular, mysterious spot that causes people to make poor decisions because they want to see it so badly?
Okay, now we're getting to the heart of what it means to be a legend. It's rare that a single event causes something to grow to legendary status. Instead, it's layers upon layers of events that add to the mystique. Any one of these events we discussed wouldn't warrant the curse label. But add them all together, plus the fact that all these businesses and ventures are now gone, add in a few stone ruins out there, and bam, Charles Island is 3 times cursed.
So far.
Right.
It only takes another big event and maybe a 4th curse will be added.
Good point. So the story of Charles Island is really still being written.
I'm curious if anyone went digging for the pirate gold.
In 1992, a Florida company made a bunch of waves applying for permits to excavate the island in search of gold. But they never got through the state's red tape. So we can't say for certain whether there's something buried there or not.
Well, it's almost better that way, isn't it? I mean, if somebody did a thorough excavation with ground-penetrating radar, metal detectors, and the like, and it turned up nothing, that might kill the legend.
Well, it might or it might not. The notion of buried pirate treasure has called to us for centuries. It's one of those quests where you learn that the journey is more important than the destination.
All right, well, maybe we lug these picks and shovels out here for nothing.
Well, today, Charles Island is an animal sanctuary, and you're right, you're not allowed to go digging anywhere. But I'm grateful we can still visit and ponder the curses and questions that this place offers.
I do have a question, Jeff. Where can people go learn more about our show?
I'm so glad you asked that completely off-the-cuff question, Ray. They can go to OurNewEnglandLegends.com to hear all of our past episodes, check out the New England Legends television series on PBS and Amazon Prime, and find photos and discussions on all of our episodes. And please join our super secret Facebook group.
You can and should subscribe to our podcast for free so you never miss a single story. You can do it right through your smartphone at iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.